Thanks to the good people at American Cinematheque and Cinesphere for putting on this Valentine's Day special for all of you. So this has been, what is that, 8 nights celebrating some amazing films. Incredible people who put their heart and soul into making these films. Everybody touched them and brought them to life. But there's one through line in all these films. This actor and producer, shapeshifter, student of the craft. This guy is unbelievable. Just think about the last 8 days and some of the roles he's inhabited. You know? Young King.
Woo!
Abandoned son, left on a dying planet to try to make the most of the family fun. What about inhabiting the body to an early flight of one of the world's greatest songwriters, Bob Dylan? How about the one?
Yeah!
You know, taken and embattled people into planetary revolution. And what about what you just saw? A teenage boy who has to try to make sense of the complexity and confusion of an identity-shaping secret summer romance. All of that already, and so much more to come. Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah! Chalamet! Woo! Woo! Yeah, Chalamet! Woo! Yeah! Yeah! Woo! Yeah, you did it! Woo! 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 Yeah!
You called it Timothée Chalamet live, man. You were joking. It's like my dream, man. Hey, congratulations on what's been an incredible 8 days of us, just celebrating film, all of us bringing people together to experience it just like you did as a kid, and it must mean a lot to you, not just for people to see these films, but to see them like this.
No, it means the world, man, and just thank you everyone for being here, taking the time to be here.
Woo!
I'm still newish. Los Angeles, I didn't know this theater existed. This is stunning, incredible to be here. Thank you to Zane for being here. You know, the interview we did together 2 years ago, I felt like it kickstarted kind of a new chapter in my career, so it feels like a nice, tying the ribbon here. Great. It's our first Valentine's Day.
Yeah. We've got a lot to talk about. I'm going to make the most of every second of it. So let's start with what everyone just saw. Call Me By Your Name. That movie changed your life.
Absolutely. It's just amazing to see the enthusiasm here for the movie tonight. I can't believe they were able to sell this theater out. Because when we made this, it was really, as I said a million times, just sort of a humble task. I think we had like 23 producers on this, like 23 financiers. Because look, we get a little bit of money from this person, a little bit of money from this person. Then when he got a bunch of award love, then they all tried to jump in and claim credit. But
What's the budget for you?
I think it was something like that, yeah. It was spread thin, you know. There's this fancy thing called escrow you can get when you're an actor, like you're supposed to only travel once you get paid. And they didn't pay me until like we were shooting, you know. I had a lawyer that said, you gotta get out of Italy, man. I was out getting free talent lessons, free piano lessons. I was enjoying it.
I want to start at the end of the beginning. If that movie was the beginning of a whole change of your life, I want to start with the scene that everyone just saw. The last scene. It's you in a tight frame for the duration, really, of the credits. And Up to that point, I'd only seen one other actor occupy a frame like that for the credits. It was Bob Hoskins in Long Good Friday.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. He just spends 5 minutes just going, I'm fucked. There's 85 different ways of going, I'm so fucked. This was such an amazing scene, mate, because you really went through the process that everyone had been building up through that film of letting go, and at the end also acknowledging it seems with some gratitude for the experience that you had. At the time, and this is lofty, was it the proudest you've been at any scene you've done, or do you remember feeling at the end of that scene when you were joining? How did it feel?
This whole thing felt transcendent, so hard to, as a young actor, come across anyone we get a good opportunity. That scene we shot on the middle, or sort of early on, Luca pulled me into the editing suite on a weekend. He showed it to me. I felt like I was, circling something that was going to be worthwhile, but I didn't want to jinx it while we're shooting it, and I wasn't repeating myself. The whole thing was like a fever dream the whole summer there. And it was short shooting days, 8-hour, 9-hour shooting days, and Luca's energy was relaxed. I mean, I remember Luca being on production calls for Suspiria while we were shooting Calling by Her Name. Point being, it wasn't like, this is the ultimate thing, By the end, though, I felt like I went through the thing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like Bob Dylan being double it back. I love it in the car. He says, I feel like I just went through a thing. And I love that because that's how I felt to be in this. And I felt emotionally tired, And the last scene we shot, was sort of that shot that goes out of focus and by the fountain towards the end of the movie, and kind of drunkenly stumbling down the steps. And I think I've said this story before, but I punched the wall in frustration when it takes, and Luke was, that's not your character at all. On the last day of the shoot, you don't know your character. I was grateful for the opportunity, and then also emotionally fried by the end, I don't want to say grateful to get out of there, but I felt like I went through a thing.
We will be watching the film. It's really immersive. So okay, let's play catch up to Marty Supreme, your most recent film. The one scene in that film is not dissimilar. It's again you facing the camera in a tight shot, going through something, some real emotional presence, and again letting go of something. If you think about it, is that the most simple pathway to figuring out the journey you've been on since Call Me By Your Name right up to Mighty Supreme? The two actors that played those two scenes, one is a younger man and one is most recently is.
Absolutely, and they represent different things in both movies, but I feel like Marty Supreme, the ending is like coming to grips with adulthood. I'm playing younger in that movie. He's 23 years old, he's coming of age in the sense of becoming a father. I think Calling by Her Name is more a youthful heartbreak, coming to terms with first love for the first time, but also being let down for the first time in life, love not being what it seems. Definitely in the years since, I'm so proud of Marty. I'm so proud of everything known. That's why I said that. The interview we did, I feel like that was a launch pad of sorts, because a movie like this, without which my career wouldn't exist, not to the degree it does, I feel like there can be indie movies sometimes that get green letters and capture a naturalistic performance of someone in their youth. I had this in the back of my head, even when I was shooting this. And then this sort of case study, the litmus test becomes, okay, can you push yourself outside of that comfort zone? That's why I'm so proud of the program this week. I feel like it started with The King, and also sort of like a toe dabble. And then Dune and Walker, these big movies that, helped me push my career along, but weren't necessarily as much character pieces as this. And I feel like a Complete Unknown and Marty Supreme back to back. I'm not trying to just toot my own horn, but like.
Toot it!
They said toot it.
Toot it!
What does that look like? Never actually thought about that, toot your horn. But, I felt like, oh my god, I got that vision out. Listen, man, back on track. This was like the fruitification of a lot of hard work, and particularly these last two roles, man. Super stoked and proud of them. And I risk a random on a single thing. I shot Complete Unknown and Marty Supreme in the span of 4 months or something. I finished Complete Unknown, had a little break, and went right back to Marty Supreme. And risk of citing athletes too much or whatever. I feel like it was that locked in mentality, you know. I was in Texas today talking to Matthew McConaughey with his students, and I felt like literally today, it's great about being with McConaughey, man. He enables me, like you guys are saying too. Listen, he didn't say talk your shit, he said it in a Texan way. You know? In a Texan way, he said talk your shit basically. And I feel like I'm 30 years old, I'm right in the pocket, man. I'm so grateful everyone was here tonight. And also what's great about doing this kind of thing is it's a great way to remind people I'm trying to be subtle about it. Maybe not so subtle. It's like, hey man, it's been a number of years, you know, and these things aren't effortless. That's not to go. This is as tough as being, you know, working at, like my dad works, his job. He will have worked 10 times harder than I will have, but in the domain of what I'm doing, what a lot of us are doing in Los Angeles, this is like, anyway, it's clickbait in a negative way, so.
It hasn't been without its disappointments, though. If you think about what happened before this breakout role, we spoke a little bit about this. We talked about Complete Unknown, how stellar that felt like a big break, and then the end result, as much as it's your favorite film, we had a little disappointment to you as a younger man because like I didn't show up on screen as much as I thought I would. There were scenes that got cut, you know. And when you think about that experience and coming out of, by the way, did you get to like pop off with Christopher Nolan about that movie? The whole experience with Nolan, I was like, I felt totally like 17 again. My home was shocking. I don't know. Anybody here was at that yourself?
Woo! Yeah.
You know, 13 years that haven't elapsed. The way he was cracking jokes backstage. We were taking pictures together. I didn't post it yet. I posted tonight or tomorrow. Then he throws me in a headlock and starts to hit me with a noogie. Holy shit, Chris Nolan's hitting me with a noogie right now. I said to him, Chris, I'm a 30-year-old man. He's like, not to me, you're whatever.
When you think about that, right? When you come out of that experience and get your first real taste of disappointment off the back, that's what should be an incredible experience. How did you approach your journey, and did it impact your decision to do Call Me By Your Name, that experience looking back on it?
You know, I wouldn't say there's total disappointment. That was 10 production days that gave me fuel for 3 years. The disappointment with the number of movies that I've cited before that I didn't get, the rejection, especially being in LA, that you get, and you feel like every door is going to close, and you feel like time's kind of evaporating. There was a director named Jan DeMange, I could actually name drop him, but I wanted to make this movie so badly, White Boy Rick, and I would see parties. It's just the truth, man. And I'd see these parties and I'd be like, man, I wish I did White Boy Rick, man. And then somebody was like, you're doing great, shut the fuck up. Stop throwing this in my face. But that was additional when I left, you know, because I wanted to beat it so badly, but because I could tell I just goofed it in the room. But
What's it feel like when you goof an audition?
I just felt terrible, man. I remember filming myself. I was weeping so much, I was like, I gotta cry out this because I was so fucked up about it. And I just had a friend that was going up for a big TV show. I won't say more specifically because he was so bummed, but like the exhaustion of spirit. Auditioning is a massively challenging thing. It's a horrible thing. That's why Screen Actors Guild, in the last contract they did with the studios, they try to introduce language where you get paid for how much you prep to audition. From what I hear, no one's followed that. But it was meant to protect, you know, the time you put in. Otherwise, the disappointment, that was the origin of the question. The disappointment was only fuel. I can't say, oh, I chose to Call Me By Your Name. Beggars can't be choosers. This kind of fell into my lap. And
but did it try to alter your perspective of what a big career in movies might be, or how much longer it might take? You know what I mean? Like when you look back at that film and for the first time, and you're like, yeah, of course, what an incredible experience. But I think you said in our conversation there was a moment when, in the moment where Benjamin McConaughey is crying down the barrel of the camera and calling that home, it was you he was talking to, but it wasn't you in the end result. I mean, that's hard. It's got to be a hard pill to swallow, even at the time. He's a kid.
Absolutely. I mean, they cut to another actor, and then Nolan at the Q&A room, he said,
Yep.
yeah, I didn't take direction, basically. And, no, I'm kidding. He said he liked the take. He said he liked it, he worked the energy into the movie, which is a big compliment. That's a man defense mechanism. But, no, I mean, it was disappointing. You know, this is, you know, I was talking about with McConaughey today, too, like, your work is only as good as how seriously you take it, and sometimes your peaks are only as high as your lows. I remember not getting roles listening to Back to Black and being moving at the back of a car, and I'm joking about it, but at the time,
That's the perfect album.
exactly. Anyway, I'm not getting sophisticated. I should be more sophisticated.
This situation. I wanted to bring you back to Call Me By Your Name, catch up the timeline and talk about the chemistry you have with Armie Hammer as well.
Yeah.
You can actually see it not withhold it like that. It's a waste.
We're on the fence with Armie.
Houston is going it feels really spontaneous as you're getting to know each other, as you're falling for each other, as you become physically connected. It feels very spontaneous and playful. It doesn't feel reversed. It doesn't feel like you went through that. Is that fair to say? And how did you get to a place where you could trust each other in those kind of environments to just play with it and be spontaneous?
I don't think there's much, practice or like chemistry mixing or whatever, mixology or whatever. I think it's either comfortable or it's not. And point being, like, if something's gonna go awry with your scene partner or without citing other movies or whatever, public fallouts and stuff, people don't like each other, it's clear, No, I'm talking about that.
That does bring up an interesting point that you said in the last movie, which is like maybe I don't know if
Click.
You said you like to approach acting playfully and not mechanically, but not everybody is like that. Some people are more mechanical or do approach it a different way. So when you do find yourself on set wanting to be true to your own approach, wanting to try it the way that makes you feel comfortable and inspired, and you have to work opposite somebody who doesn't, how do you sort of manage your way through that? What tools do you use in order to adapt to other people's methods?
I think I've been lucky where I don't think it's as regimented as that as far as, I think based on this movie, I think people were pretty motivated since this to a fault maybe to work around. I would say the challenges I face in that regard were more between Marty Supreme and Call Me By Your Name as far as, feeling like once you're on a bigger set or a bigger studio, feeling like you've got to be more controlled or something. I feel like Marty and Complete Unknown are breaking free of that. I think Wonka has a lot of elements of that too.
Wonka mentioned.
Wonka mention.
I noticed Wonka was absent these last 8 days.
We were supposed to do this last year, and unfortunately the fires broke out. That was definitely the program last year. I think Kayla Lane, who plays Noodle beautifully in Wonka, I think she did an intro last year.
Woo!
So Wonka and Little Women and both. So I wanted to do.
Little Women! Woo!
I wanted to do the whole thing.
Yeah!
Part 2.
Ladybird!
It's just this section.
Marty Supreme!
Take my credit card.
This is a fucking brought one of the director, Luca. One of the things that's so amazing about this film is the fact that he's created such a vicarious experience for us, and yet it gets so close and so intimate to the experience that you all had as characters in the film. It's really, it's like a magic act. Do you remember being on set, how he did that, how he was able to get so close to the relationships, multiple relationships in this film, without feeling like he was spying on them?
No, I think that's a good superpower. I think he does it in all of his movies. I think you saw that in Challengers as well. I think he just
Challenges!
And I wouldn't say he creates the presumption of intimacy in as much as if you were having a non-vulnerable moment, that would be glaring and stand out. So it's not like all of a sudden he takes invasive or voyeuristic attitude or anything. The setup is very intimate and vulnerable. I think that's why this movie functions so well, Calling by Her Name. And as it relates to an organic discussion of career, I think that's why I function, in a healthy way within it. It's because I was so hungry. And it'd be like a musician or rapper or something who's like, has a meeting at the record label or something, comes overly prepared. I wanted to give it all, That's why that last scene, I don't have a crazy memory of that last scene. I think my buddy Will was in town and went home and was like, it was another day, yeah. And whereas on Marty Supreme or something last day, I do have a memory of that last scene. That felt like a heavy lift,
How many takes did you do that last time with Marty Supreme?
Marty Supreme was 2.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, Marty Supreme was 2 in the he just used the first take. But yeah.
Do you have to sit on the break?
You did 2 takes as a fact. Do you remember? Which I don't want to ask that question. Some things should stay there. I'm not going to go into what you're thinking about doing this kind of scenes. Wherever you go, you go. That's the most important thing. I do want to ask a couple more questions about Calling by Your Name. I want to focus a little bit on the relationship with the father in the film. The scene where the father talks to you and something about himself in order to assure you and reassure you that you're on the right path and you should experience these things and not to feel shame is all fucking time. It's incredible. The writing is
yeah.
As a father, it's amazing to watch that come to life on screen. What was it like to shoot that particular scene?
There's scenes you circle as an actor that intimidate you or the ones that stand out to you in the script that obviously isn't the heavy lift for me. It's from like the school bar. I think as I've grown older, that scene stands out to me more and more. It's like the perfect advice isn't even the right word, perfect guidepost for a young person in life.
But I just want to say, that for what it's worth, that you didn't say anything. That's not the point. I love instrumental and music. It moves me as much as music with lyrics, if not more at times. So you're not saying anything in that scene, you still had to carry your part in it. What is that experience like when you don't actually have dialogue and you're just, play somebody in the
Michael, truthfully, was totally effortless because he was phenomenal. I think we did 2 takes, and on the 3rd take, he turned to me and said, "Don't look at me this time." And when it was on his side. And I really respected it. I could tell he needed to do something where I was more passively listening, And then this is going to sound cheesy, but it was so easy to receive what he was saying when they did my side of the scene. I think Calling by Your Name and Beautiful Boy had me spoiled in a sense after those projects where it was so natural, the themes were so close to my heart and naturalistic. I think something like The King or Marty Supreme, I don't take more pride in them, but I go, okay, these were stretches in a sense. I'm not deeply enthusiastic about table tennis. I'm not medieval king of England, yet. But both these films that we showed the last 2 nights, they were things that felt so universal to me, and that's what I mean by spoiled. It's like very rare to get one, let alone 2 movies when you're young, especially. There's not much of a stretch going on.
When you released The King, and people who got to see
Yeah.
The King in the cinema this week,
Yeah. That was awesome.
that's probably the first time you, certainly anyone, most people would have seen it in the cinema. It had a limited theatrical release, and it was probably in the first few years of films that, $20-odd million budget film going straight to Netflix pretty much after limited theatrical. So as someone who grew up wanting this experience, wanting to see your films in a theatre and understanding this is progress, this is the direction it's going, what did that feel like when the film went to Netflix? Did it affect your sense of completion? Did you have to adapt to that? The idea of job done when it didn't get a full...
I think if I answer that totally truthfully, they kind of hit things in the zeitgeist in different ways because the reach of Netflix is unparalleled. And something like Swiggy, that's a poor example, because it was so massive, so it's not like I'm making a big stretch there by citing that. But that show, because I was traveling at the time, but that show was everywhere, and everywhere. It was in every household, including me. I was watching it. If you put out a movie theatrically, what I've felt, based on my experience with The King or Don't Look Up, is that it's just more of a moment. Sounds like cheesy marketing talk, but like there's more ceremony around it, there's more drum roll. And I think it's hard when somebody goes direct to streaming. This is more a technical conversation. I'm not interested in this to talk about, but it's hard to do that, I found, with streaming. And I wasn't losing that mentality because I like things having a big reach. I'm a big believer in, you know, I've done a million times for students, they support theaters, and I do believe in supporting theaters.
I mean, it's good. This is good. Also, it's 0.8 days in films.
I was going to contrast my fire point there because people supported it with applause.
Do it.
I don't think it's one or the other anymore in anything. You know, in my opinion, I mean, I'm a final connector. I go to the streaming service.
Yeah.
You know, it's contradictory times. The work, to your point, you want it to be seen by as many people as possible. And that's always been a driving factor for you to some degree, right? Is to inspire as many people with your films as you can.
Yeah, that's the dream. That's why, man, Marcus Supreme doing the numbers it did, I'm still doing it. It's going to open in France today. When McGowan was just today. This is the dream, and it's across the board, you know. I feel like I've been able to shift my perspective in that way too. Like when Frankenstein was booming, or Hamlet was booming, or all these movies, I get stoked because like, okay, these things are working. I think I used to have more of an immature mentality. Now I know, like, you know, our film industry, LA being a capital of culture in America or in the Western world, everyone says that stuff is not guaranteed at all. At all. So these things need to thrive. What I was going to say before is, for as much as it should be, not should be, for as much as there's like a civil effort to keep theaters alive and stuff, when you get a Barbie or not, okay, that's no civil effort. That's like people wanting to see those fucking movies. So,
Yep.
That'd be my dream, you know, to continue, hopefully, walking that line between, you know, something like Barbie.
And you're winning.
Thank you, stuff like that.
It's crazy though, because it is, like, if I look at what you've done, even with the bigger films, obviously doing a gigantic film, completely unknown big films, you know, Mighty Supreme, there's still this sense of you not necessarily falling under sinker into the big studio mentality. I never get a feeling when I'm watching these films like you're being consumed by that. How hard is it to not be consumed by that when you start to have success?
I think my perspective is strong, being from New York and
Woo, New York!
for 8 years, 10 years. So, and the examples are there. There's tons of examples that are like minefields too. But then, you know, it's going to be a very easy, exciting example. If you look at DiCaprio's career, if you look at Titanic, that he did very young, obviously. Every choice has been intentionally director-based, character-based. That's not rocket science to be saying that at all, you know. And the path is right there. So, you know, those are my like 2 favorite words of this year: perspective and authorship, you know. And those just bounce on my head all the time. And what the limits of that are is inaccurate, you know, where otherwise you have lines written for you, otherwise you have talking points given to you. I feel like I've flipped all that. Yeah, I just want to keep pushing it, and that's what I was talking about with Kanye today too. Is like I want to push it as far as he can go, and then whoever the next guy or gal is, they'll be able to push it even further.
You know, your work and you know what you did with Bob Dylan role. We spoke before the film. We really spoke about the film. Just text, but I haven't had a chance to say that. You know, face to face, how remarkable that was. You may not know this, and I don't really care at this point, but I hadn't actually seen the film before we spoke about it. I was allowed to screen it, so I just literally was kind of riffing on the concept of anything. Absolutely incredible. How hard was it to let that role go in the end? Because when I saw you performing on Saturday Night Live, you were Timothy. I closed my eyes, you were Bob.
No, that was finishing that. That was the most transcendent experience I've ever had. I love Marty. I love Chloe by her name. The finishing completely alone. It just felt like couldn't even put words to it. And to study that man's brain and his career, the place I'm at now, it's like just gemstones, you know, that are guiding me. And I wouldn't know how else to say it, you know. I don't have much more to say on that. Like, you know, it's just a dream.
You said that his relationship with Destiny is fragile. Bob Dylan's relationship with Destiny is fragile. I don't remember that. You know, I feel like your relationship with Destiny is purposeful. You know, that you do have a grasp on what you want to achieve. But do you have moments where that wavers? Do you have moments when you have to like...
I feel like there's moments where it wavers to me in the sense that I feel my position is more fraud or something. But my inner mission is known, it's unchanged or something. That's why I use that word perspective again. That's why I say New York. Because, you know, I make this joke, like at Columbia University, where I went to for a year, I was like the most lost person but academically, I don't know how I got in. But then in the you know, in this like cream or whatever you call it that gets to work in LA, my perspective all of a sudden is like so clear. And like I said, there's the minefield examples of people before me that are like warning signs or something. You know, Bob Dylan, Hank Williams, they didn't have, you know, Hank Williams is kind of like the first rock star, OD, you know, they didn't have the examples before, but now we really have the examples, you know. So I feel like the missteps are clear, project-wise, character-wise, public life-wise, you know, so I can be academic about my career, you know, and I hope you guys hold to it, you know, at this age as well. I hope in 5 years, maybe we'll do it again with a couple of great things. In 10 years, you know, same thing. In 15 years, you're, you know, pulling me out of whatever cult I'm in. And in 20 years, I'm doing it again. It might be terrible.
It's crazy. I think about like that. When we went to school as 9 years old, and I feel like there's much more, if not more, for that film as it grows than before. You know, one of the things I really like about the way that you've been approaching amplifying your work and the work with the people that you make the films with, I just think it's great to chase. And like, people get a little obsessed over this whole marketing thing. I see it very differently. The way I feel is that you look at your films like an artist looks at an album. Like a great artist, how many people love music in this? So you know what it's like when like
Tyler
the Creator.
Yep.
Puts out an album. Now Tyler's not just putting out an album and going back to sleep, right? He's finding interesting and unique ways to tell us that his music is out all the time. And I've got nothing against the system and how it works, because time is important, but most things I've ever seen in films are like junkets, 2-day junkets. So like, that's cool, right? I get it, I've limited time with people. You don't do that. You go around the junket and beyond the junket and do all that shit. And I just wanted to say, first of all, for a question, I really respect that.
Woo! Yeah!
Don't you I just see people like, oh, it's really good marketing. I'm like, it's not that. But it is that, but it's not. What is it that does that really excite you? It seems like it really inspires you that once the work is done on set, that you do look at it as just all creative.
Absolutely, and I like that you mentioned Tyler, because he was somebody in my ear throughout my Supreme Odyssey, is a huge part in it, but just always encouraging me to go, and you need people like that. Even they keep bringing up McConaughey, but I hadn't seen him in a long time, and today these people that are really comfortable operating out of bounds, you know. And I don't have too much to say on that, you know. I don't think this stuff just feels inevitable. Times are changing, as Bob would say, and you know, those days of these movies are not guaranteed. Like, you need to reach people, blah blah blah. So I don't think we did a single junket on Murray. I think the one junket we did, I stuck my foot in my mouth because I was like, you know, I hadn't been in a setting like that in a while. It's stupid or whatever, but yeah, you know, I relish it because people don't relish it at all. You know, fuck it, just press on and here, whatever. I hear that and I salivate because I'm like, okay, you don't relish it, I relish this shit. It's a little dream, you know. This is like the aspirational hip hop part of me now. What a dream! What a dream, man! Are you kidding me? Yeah. Are you kidding me? I'm in this theater. I came here 5 minutes ago. This theater so loud. They put a rocket ship up there. That's what it feels like, that rocket ship. You know what I mean?
And you deserve it. You deserve
What does it
it.
feel like, speaking of deserving it, what does it felt like, given, the last 10 years or so, or more, and I know you're a humble guy, but right? Like, what does it feel like to be honest? How's it felt to be like doing things that it's a genuine question, I would have loved you to be honored more last year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, snub of June. Snub of June.
In 2018,
Thanksgiving's right. Fucking know, but this year you've had a really good run, and I'm pulling forward from what comes next. I'm just asking you how it feels so far.
It feels great, man. This is not the cheesy response, it's the authentic one. So look at Jesse Buckley and Hamlin, or I get stuck. Jacob and Frankenstein, I get stuck because I go, everyone's killing it. So I feel lucky to be part of that community. That Oscar was luncheon the other day, and it was moving, especially because they honor people at the luncheon that are in front of camera, honor sound people and cinematographers, people that don't always get their shine. So I feel honored to be a part of that community. And honestly, my live day-to-day attention, it's my day-to-day attention. I'm not saying the thing, whatever, it's not the end of the world, but my attention is November, December, that's what I really live for. My November, December, that's whatever. The thing you just asked me about before, I don't even want to talk about it too much. And then this part,
Which part?
I'm just saying, putting out the movie, whatever part, like I'm going to Japan and China and March, I'm stoked to do that, because I love reaching people through films. I want to be a basketball player, a soccer player. I want to be, in elitist circles. I want to be like doing real shit. I want people, that's what I love about Marty Supreme was I felt like it was this prestige each week form of me, but more than anything, when I was walking the street, I felt like it wasn't necessarily a big crowd. They said, I don't know if this is true, but they said it was like the movie this year was the least frequent movie-going audience or something. That's music to my ears, the least frequent movie-going audience. That's awesome. And these tickets are always sitting in the tech numbers. Very movie-going audience. But,
what you mean? I mean, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's the dream. And anyway, this is all planning to do this the last couple months. And these institutions gotta, sustain themselves. So it's really moving me. You see PTA, you see Spielberg, you see Leo, you see Jesse Buckley, you see Chloe Zhao. It's moving me, and everyone's terrified and thrilled.
When I speak to my friends who tour, and they go on the road a lot, and I speak to them when they're on the road, often they just want to talk about normal life. They don't want to talk about what's been going on the shows and stuff. They're like, what's happening in your world? How's such and such? Mutual friend. And I'm always reminded that, for all of the excitement of doing that and the dream come true, that life is going on around them whilst they're on the road. And I always try to point that out too, because every time we buy a ticket to a show and we go see a concert, we go home to normal life and then we go to it night after night after night. It's I feel the same way. It must feel the same way sometimes when you're on set. Like, I don't know what you're off to work on it, so I'm sure you won't tell us, but, how do you manage the away of it? You obviously have friends and family and everything else. That's your tour. How do you find a balance?
I love to use a music metaphor. That's why I was so stoked to do that interview 2 years ago. I think the same way. I think it's much more grounded, and I feel like I work in the humanities in a sense. I feel like these rocks, if you're a rock star or something, you're constantly, your nervous system's firing, and I thought about this at length, you're constantly in hotel rooms, whatever, so I'm doing, for instance, this past summer, doing the same with us, 2 months at a time, and I'm engaging in grounded human exercise, even playing something like Call of Duty, the stakes are still, behavioral, I must put it. So I think it's quite different, and I think in pop culture, I think musicians have the hardest as far as keeping their feet on the ground. Also, the stakes, album to album, I've thought about this so much too. It's so hard as a musician if your album kind of goes like this, critically, financially, whatever, to then go up. Yeah, and I think movies flop all the time, and the guys in the biggest hit the next year, and So, that answers your musician question.
No, I have a musician question. Needless to say, you won't be touring with SD Kidney touch soon. I'm sure they don't want to get it out of
Timothée Chalamet too.
So that's you, thank you.
Oh. Yeah.
Shouts to the local mess. It's been really, really nice to see you again, man. And I think what you put on here for everybody over the last 8 days, apart from being a great opportunity for everyone to honour your work and the work of all of the thousands of people who make these films with you, you've also given everybody this experience, which we all sit on our couch. It's great, but it's nice to be together, right?
Yeah.
No, thank you, man. And thank you everyone for being here. I'd like to frame the last question in the musician setting. I feel like something like this week is the closest I can get to, to that feeling. Thank you all. I've seen a lot of your faces consistently the whole week. That's my favorite artist concert.
Yeah.
Shit. I'm the only person here that knows that.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah. Timothée. Woo!